Hey everybody, Ryan here at Etrailer. Today on our 2021 Ford Ranger, we're going to be showing you how to install the Demco towed vehicle charge wire kit. So before we get started checking everything out, I figured it'd be useful just to kind of refresh ourselves and touch base on the main components that we're going to need to flat tow our Ranger down the road in the first place. And the first one is going to be that base plate, and that's going to provide us with a solid and reliable connection point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. Tow bar is going to be that second component, and this is going to be the physical link that actually connects the front of our truck to the back of our motorhome. The third main component is going to be safety cables, and these are pretty straightforward. You know, those are there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. They're going to keep everything paired together. The fourth main component is going to be tow bar wiring. And what this is going to do is transfer the lighting functions from the back of your RV to the back of your Ford, keeping you safe and legal. And the fifth main component is going to be a braking system. And what this is going to do is apply the brakes in your truck whenever you hit the brakes in your motorhome, helping to bring you to a more predictable and complete stop. There is one thing that I do want to bring up, and that is the use of what's called a high-low adapter. Now in our case here today, we don't need one, but the purpose of the high-low adapter is to make sure your tow bar is riding nice and level. So you may need one, you may not. It's really just going to depend on your setup. But it's easy to figure out, and all you have to do is take a couple of measurements. So what you want to do is pull your truck up to the back of your motorhome, you know, somewhere in this area, and get on level ground. And you're going to measure from the center of the pinhole here in the base plate down to the ground. So just to kind of give you a reference point, ours here today is about 15.5 inches. You know, yours is probably the same. It could vary though on what trim package you have and tire size and everything else. But with that said, you'll record this measurement, and then you're going to measure from the center of your hitch pinhole down to the ground on your motorhome. And you want that measurement to be within 3 inches of each other. That's kind of the rule of thumb there. If you exceed that 3 inches, you can use that high-low adapter. And what you're going to do is choose a high-low adapter that you know, gets those measurements within spec. And if that's something you need, there's a ton of different sizes available right here at Etrailer. So besides the main components that you're actually going to need to, you know, flat tow your Ranger behind your motorhome, this is one of these components that are small but make a big difference, and a lot of times they're overlooked. And what it's going to do is essentially keep your battery topped off and charged whenever you're pulling it behind your motorhome. And the reason your battery can get depleted and potentially go flat whenever you're flat towing is because of the braking systems. Generally speaking, just about all those braking systems are going to use your truck's battery power to actually operate. And so what happens when you're, you know, on your trip and you're towing for hours on end, you know, every time the braking system activates, it's going to take a little bit of juice and a little bit of juice, a little bit of juice from your battery. And that can cause some issues, you know. Once you get to where you're going and you unhook, you want to, you know, take the truck out for a spin or whatever, could potentially leave you with a dead battery. And who wants to deal with that when you're trying to have a good time, you know? You have to pull out a jump box or jumper cables or bother someone to see if they can give you a hand. And you can avoid all that, you know, using a charge wire like this. It's going to give you the confidence knowing whenever you arrive to your destination, truck's going to turn right on and you can go out and enjoy yourself. I do want to address one of the big questions that we get asked, and that is this charge wire kit going to work with vehicles that do not have a Demco supplemental braking system? And the answer is yes. The charge wire kit is going to work regardless of what type of braking system you have. It doesn't really care about that or get any information from the braking system. Essentially, all this is going to do is use some of the amperage that your motorhome is generating while it's running, and more or less trickle charge a battery. So that energy is going to come up through the wire into the positive battery terminal. Which brings me to my next topic, you know, is it going to affect your motorhome's batteries or anything like that? And the answer is no. It's only going to be taking that power and actually charging this battery whenever your motorhome is running. And when it's running, the alternator's going and it's generating more than enough amperage to not only charge your motorhome's batteries, but also the Ranger's battery. With that said too, the kit, the wiring is going to have a fuse in it, so it's fuse protected, and also a diode. And what that diode's going to do is prevent any backfeeding. So that electricity can only come in, you know, from the motorhome side to your battery and not the other way around. The way it's going to work is, you know, the energy that the motorhome's putting out is going to come out through your 12-volt auxiliary power here on your motorhome 7-way. So in order for this to work correctly, you are going to have that 12-volt power supply in your 7-way. You know, generally speaking, you know, pretty much all of the motorhomes that I've seen that have a 7-way on them have that 12-volt auxiliary power already wired up and everything. There's been a couple oddballs that I've ran into, some older model type RVs that do not have that. But, you know, if you got a late model RV, chances are really good you're set up there. And what's going to happen is that power is going to come through your tow bar wire here into the 6-way round connector. And that's where our charge wire is going to be hooked up. And from there, it'll flow up into the battery. So, you know, you're not going to have to worry about hooking up extra wires or any extra steps when it comes to hooking all your components up here whenever you're ready to hit the road. In order for this kit to work properly and do its job, you are going to need a battery that is in good working condition. You know, you can't take a completely flat battery or you know, one with a bad cell or one that's damaged and expect it to come back to life by using this setup. So as long as your battery is good, you know, you're not going to run into any issues there. Now compared to some of the other charge line kits available, they're all going to do a really good job, and you know, really nothing too crazy different about them. One that comes to my head we've got quite a bit of experience with is the Roadmaster towed vehicle charge line kit. Does a great job, works the way it should. Really the biggest difference with that one is it uses a circuit breaker instead of a fuse and a diode. Huge deal, no. I kind of like the diode and the fuse better than the circuit breaker, honestly. That circuit breaker is an auto resetting type one, so if an issue were to occur and trip that breaker, chances are pretty good at some point that breaker's gonna reset itself and that issue could happen again. With a fuse, you know, it's gonna pop the fuse, it's not gonna come back on its own, and you know there's an issue going on, and kind of gives you some time to check it out and everything else. But other than that though, honestly a must-have for a flat tow setup, in my opinion. You know, it's a cheap insurance policy to make sure that your battery is going to stay good and you're not going to have to deal with any silly issues when you're out, you know, trying to spend time with your friends and your family. Now, as far as the installation goes, really not bad at all. Essentially, it's just one wire. You hook it up to the battery, run it down to your 6-way. So really shouldn't give you any issues at all. But speaking of that, why don't we go ahead and pull into the garage and put it on together now. To begin our install, we're going to be here underneath the hood of our Ranger, and we're going to be working over here on the driver's side next to our battery. So the positive terminal on our battery, we can lift up this cover, and if you look right there, we're going to have an empty stud, and that's the one that we're going to be using. I'm going to take that nut off with a 10mm socket. Go ahead and get this removed. And then we can grab our charge line, and we want the end that has a pre-attached ring terminal. Make sure the fuse is not installed in it. We're going to put that in once everything's hooked up. And this is simply just going to slide over that stud, and we can reinstall the nut. Now once this is tightened down, we can start to route the other end of our charge line towards the front of our truck. So I already went ahead and did that, and the path that I took, Just comes right off the battery, along through here, and it drops down right here in that area. Underneath the truck here, you can see this is where our red wire dropped down. Comes along through here and kind of up into our grill area. So here at the front of our car, here's where our red wire comes up, and this is going to get connected into the back of our existing 6-way here. So what you're going to do is strip back the insulation, give that wire a good twist, and this is going to get hooked up to the center pin there in our 6-way plug. So we'll back that out a little ways, slide that wire in, and simply tighten it back down. So once that's hooked up, what I'm going to do is take some dielectric grease and just apply it to the terminals. And this will really help cut down on corrosion and things of that nature. You can grab some of this here at Etrailer if you need some. So don't be shy with it. Really layer it on there good. And then we do have a rubber dust cap that goes on the back, but this type of bracket won't allow me to plug it on our connector first and then push it through. So I'm going to feed this through. I can manage to do this here. That dust cover on it. And I'll just go ahead and re-secure my connector plug there. Back up into the engine compartment, all we have left to do is take our included fuse and go ahead and place that into the holder, and that's really all there is to it. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Demco towed vehicle charge wire kit on our 2021 Ford Ranger.